Okay, internet's a little slow. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Divine Feminine Messages, or Mondays. And as you can see, Nancy's not here. She's in chat, and Nancy had some eye surgery today, so she's not quite up to being able to reading. So, Nancy, we love you. Mwah! Sending you
Yes.
lots of love. I wish I could do that on my, and all the little hearts come flying.
Yeah, me too.
But
I can't do
but
it.
thank you, everybody. I see everyone sending Nancy lots of love and positivity and healing. I mean, this is just so beautiful. And this is what I love about our community. You know, us supporting each other and being there for each other. Um, this is absolutely beautiful.
Mhm.
So today we have the lovely Kristen Louise. Um, Thank you, Kristen, for coming back. I know you're a
Oh,
little nervous, but we all get nervous. And
yeah.
after a while, when you start kicking out some of these, and people don't realize it, but when I go live, I'm nervous the whole time through.
Wow.
And that's why sometimes with a little bit of extra laughing, and the caffeine probably doesn't help either. But
Yeah.
it's just something. It's a natural part of going on stage,
Yeah.
or doing whatever, or speaking in front of a group of people. You're always going to have that little bit of butterflies, and that's fine.
Mhm.
So I told Kristen that and she knows too from chat that we're all very supportive, kind, and loving to each other. And I told her to relax and to be her beautiful self. And so before we get started, I was pulling out different decks, and it seems like I was getting some messages, general, which typically I don't do, but that's how I like our live shows to go. They're organic. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of structure, but then kind of like to see how things flow and move. So I'm going to start off with a card, or two cards actually, from Kristen's deck. Kristen, as you all know, created the Star Rune Oracle. It is for sale through MPC. And when I first learned of this deck, I immediately got it. I had to get it. I saw her using it on one of your videos. I think you were doing a pre-recorded. I don't know if you took it out into the woods, because Kristen has done videos where she just goes for walks through the woods, and it's so beautiful because you get to hear nature, and it's just that beautiful extra connectedness that she has to the earth, to the mother, which I just absolutely love about Kristen. And so I shuffled, and I said, I wonder what the first card is, from the top. I am enough. And so, for all of us who are watching on playback and are here, no matter what we are going through in life right now, whatever it may be, our past, working on traumas, or just kind of dealing with things that happened in the past that might be affecting us in the future right now, just know that we are always enough. In the eyes of the universe, we are always enough. Um, and when I looked at the bottom of the deck, and this is another beautiful thing about Kristen's deck that I love, is that it's very inclusive. There's different I don't want to say sexual preferences, but it's inclusivity. There's different representations of relationships, of intimate relationships. There's different ages. There's different nationalities, and I just love the representation, the inclusivity that she brings to her deck. And I have the Wisdom Keeper, and that beautiful crone, full of wisdom, full of knowledge, and willing to share that with anybody who's willing to listen. And so those were two cards that came, wanted to come from her deck um, today. And so another deck I haven't used in a while, I was drawn to, was my Native Spirit by Denise. Is it Denise Lynn? Yes, Denise Lynn. She's of the Cherokee Nation, and I shuffled and I got White Buffalo. So this is beautiful because there is a deity in the Cherokee, and this is also going into Lakota, of the White Buffalo calf woman. And she was the one that helped bring, the harvest to the people. She was the pipe bearer. Extremely beautiful and powerful, and the wisdom of the white buffalo. I'm even getting goosebumps as I'm talking about her. So the white buffalo, the sacredness of earth, even the sacred of being in the winter. All seasons have a sacredness to them. just like all seasons of our lives have a beautiful sacredness to them. My one crystal deck that hasn't been around in a while wanted to come out as well, and it's the Astral Realms Crystal Oracle. And the stone crystal for today is associated with the third eye and has to do with consciousness, and it's lapis lazuli.
Oh, nice.
And I love this deck. I love anything that's like a pink rose gold, and oh my god, it this deck is just yummy. Um, and I just love how she includes the different florals, the flowers. She sometimes includes a pearl, but for lapis, our consciousness, developing our third eye, connecting with our intuition, especially as women, tapping into that inner, the woman knowing, the strong intuition, the intuitive nature, and trusting in our abilities, trusting in how we feel. And if something doesn't feel right, to honor that, to acknowledge that. And lapis is a beautiful stone too for dreaming as well, and is associated with one of the main goddesses, with Isis. So I have Egyptian coming through. I have the beautiful, for me, she feels very Nordic, very Norse. I learned more than a couple years ago, that I have Scandinavian relatives. So when I see this card, I feel like she could be somebody, from my past and my ancestors. Um, we have, White Buffalo Woman. We have the Native. So there was just a lot of different people and spirits and energy coming around. And from the Chris Ann Muse Tarot, this is the last one, but it's a really important card. I have the Muse of Voices. And in her deck, this is the Ten of Swords. And the Ten of Swords is about, coming to a cycle, feeling like you've been stabbed in the back, like you're down on the ground, you can't go anywhere, but, you're down, but the only place you can go is back up again. And when we have those moments, remembering that we are enough, that we pick ourselves up. And what I love is that she says, no matter what, you can leave that all behind, and you walk into a more beautiful, positive future. It's the ending of one cycle into the other. And so those were the cards that wanted to come through today. Let me just get this a little bit situated here. And I'm going to give this over to Chris. Oh, first of all, sorry. I we need to check with chat because people have been popping in. So sometimes when Heather does her, I don't look at the screen, the chat, because I don't want to lose track of what I'm saying. So we have Tropical Empress here. This is Amanda. Hello, and of course there's our Nancy. We have Carmela. Flowing is here. I can't go up any higher in the chat from when we first started. Um, but we do have Soul Sister here with us as well. Arlene Forney is here. Hello, Arlene. T. Lynn is here. Hello, Teresa. I am enough. Amen. Blessed be, so motive be. Hallelujah. And aho. Mandy, the Mystic Tarot, is here. Hello, Mandy. Yep, and there is Dancing Soul Sister. And yes, I'm enough, and you are enough, and beautiful. That I just love. Yes, yummy energy. I love everybody in chat. Sylvia is here. Sylvia was a guest a few months ago. Um, oh, I must have missed Moira. So, hello, Moira. Thank you for being here. And yes, thank you. Please do so. Make sure you Kristen's link is in the description below. And I'm sorry if I can't get to a mute button. My mute button. I live on a main thoroughfare, so drag cars, motorcycles. So I try to make sure I click on as soon as I can. Bella. Oh my goodness, dear. It's been a while. How are you, my dear? Oh, it's so nice to see you. Carrie is here. Teresa, my Norwegian grandfather referred to Scandinavians as Scandahoovians. Not sure, but it's cute. As long as it's not, um, what's the word? Detrimental or disrespectful, but I don't think so because everybody in my chat, they're absolutely wonderful. And whoops, we just say hello to Soul Sister. And we have three shifting veils. Hello, my dear. Thank you for being here. Oh, everyone's saying hi to each other. Oh, my goodness. This is wonderful. We have 10 people already in chat. So, and I do believe I said hello to Carrie. So, hello, my dear, her beautiful horse. And so um, I'm going to hand it over to Kristen and let her share a little bit about her process with her deck. and all you, my dear.
Okay, so and I'm sorry for the echo. It's a big room with no fabric anywhere, so I have my apologies for that. So yeah, I created the Star Rune Oracle. I actually originally started making myself a tarot deck that I wasn't planning on selling. That I was using artwork from anywhere and everywhere, but I got to about 90% done, and the deck got deleted. Yeah, all that work, weeks and weeks and weeks of work gone. And so I'm like, well, no use crying over spilled milk. So I decided to do an oracle instead. And, because runes are part of my spiritual practice, it just made sense. And I can't say exactly how I got the astronomy involved in it. It's sort of just organically happened where like I started pulling in, astronomical like moons and suns and stars and constellations and whatnot. And yeah, and so I wanted an introductory rune deck that's one that's very approachable for anyone, who, might not even be, Norse pagan or lean that way. So I wanted to appeal to a larger audience. And so, yeah, and I chose 3 for each rune because the runes are multifaceted and they don't even stop at 3. Like a lot of them, there's sub meanings and whatnot that I didn't get into the deck. So that's why I see it as introductory. But yeah, so yeah, I think that's all I have as far as the process. I mean, well, the process when I started creating it, I actually had created. I don't know if I created a Facebook group for it, or if I just did it on my own page. I think I might have just done it on my own page where I started sharing images, and I would get other people's feedback. And so I got critiqued, like for almost every card, I got critiqued on it. And some of my friends were a little more honest than others. And they would share their opinion. And sometimes I ultimately said, yes, you're right, that card does not work. And so it was a big help through the process. Yeah.
I hope I'm not throwing you off. I just figured while you were talking about the cards, I would just go ahead and share some. Now the images, I know that I've seen because I've been on like on Etsy and you see other cards, and I've seen a couple faces and go, I've seen that in one Kristen's deck. So the images came from
Stock photography, yeah.
Stock photography.
Yeah, the astronomical ones mostly came from public domain, NASA, things like that. And so I would blend multiple images. See, like that image there, that is like 4 different images put together. And it's kind of hard to tell. Some people think that I just took an image and slapped it on a card and said done. And that's not what I did. It took a lot of work to sort of sew different images together. So
like I said, all ages, all races, the images that spirit led you to find, the photographs. I mean, we thank the people for willing to have these photographs taken and be, you know, um, for use for art. I mean, there's that one particular one. Well, here's another one that's one of my favorites. Gotta love the puppy dog.
yeah.
Absolutely sweet. But the one that I think really brought me to tears was this one here. I think this is the one that gets the most, reaction to it. And it's just for her to even have the courage to say, you know, because for a lot of women, that's, a loss of what they feel is their womanhood, of what it means to be a woman, and to have that, not to have your breast removed, for a lot of women, that's something that is so painful that for them to even be able to see, but to be able to openly share. I mean, that was just, and this card, I don't think Earl is in here. He might come in later, but I think it was a couple months ago, I was using your deck, and because Earl asked for a feminine reading, and this was one of the cards from your deck that I had, and I said, Earl, I'm going to ask you a question. I don't know if you're far past, if you lost a relative to any sort of breast cancer or cancer, but that's what I'm feeling. I had her, and I had a couple of the other cards. I didn't have too many, but that one really stood out to me. And when I was done, I looked over, and he said, just like 2 weeks ago, he had lost an aunt to cancer.
Oh.
He didn't specify whether or not it was breast cancer, but just the like, so your cards can bring messages from spirit beautifully through. They really can. So this is an incredible deck. I highly recommend anybody who reads. And then you don't have to be familiar with the runes, because you include the name of the rune, so you can learn along with the now are they called sigils, or just the right word is rune?
Rune, yeah.
Okay, so you don't want to say symbol or sigil, it's a rune. Okay, so you can go by learning the rune. You can learn what the word is. Now, this is which language that you used?
The names of them?
Yes.
It's Old Norse is where they
this
derive
is Old
from.
Norse. Okay.
Yeah, like that it derives from. I mean, that's the Roman alphabet, but yeah, but it stems from Old Norse.
And there is another one. Aloha, Jonathan. I just wanted to give people an idea. Oh, another one. Every time I see this card, I think of Madonna song Frozen. It's just beautiful. I absolutely love that image. But I want to show what I might represent it with different relationship preferences. Because an intimate relationship is more than about the sex in it. It's that beautiful connection, that intimate connection, not just on a sexual or physical level, but on a deep spiritual level, an emotional level. And I just wanted to show for anybody who's not familiar, it's like, where are you now? They're like, you cannot show us. And of course, I was showing this earlier, ancestors. Again, so for spirit messages, this is an amazing deck because you also have a card acknowledging and honoring your ancestors specifically, which is amazing. And another Berkano, so like before, and this is another example for mother. And for me, this feels more like a high priestess, earth mother, like village witch. The wisdom keeper, the sage, the lady that you went to for healing in your village. And if anything you want to, insert in there.
Yeah, I think if I did the deck over again, I would change mother and father to divine feminine and divine masculine. So I'm hoping to, by the end of the year, submit the deck to some company, one or two, to see if I could get it produced mass market. So we'll see.
She is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I've seen her face elsewhere. Her features, everything, absolutely beautiful. This is so weird. Where are the three relationships? Okay, so we have our traditional feminine and masculine, and the other ones must be right near it. Yep. Well, at least we have the female relationship. And yep, right here we go. And we have the masculine. So I love how she was able to do that. Very beautiful. So were there any other cards that you wanted to share, or you want me to pull out before? There's a beautiful Purify.
I don't know.
And it does deep into, and this is also a great deck for shadow work. Yeah. You have Hagalaz. If I'm pronouncing that.
Yeah, you are.
Hagalaz. Hailstorm. There was one for conflict.
Yes, I just saw that.
Beautiful strength card.
Or says conflict.
And it shows that crying is strength. Love that. Wrath, being angry. Um, it's just and the guardians. That's beautiful too. Your guardians.
Yeah, and that stems from I had this vision of a bobcat when I was meditating, and I didn't know, I said someone else told me that I had a different animal, and I was in a group with Sadhana. I don't know if you know Sadhana, but I was in one of her groups, and a gentleman who I don't see anymore around, but he said, no, that's not the right animal. Your animal is a bobcat. And it was just like that day or the day before that I saw a bobcat or a lynx, and yeah, and he guessed it. So I was like, well, that says something. So that's the animal I picked. Yeah. Well, there's Uru's sovereignty. I really like this card.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Let's see. Looking for, because I know there were comments. I used to read runes a long, long time ago. Three Shifting Veils said, and Bella says, "I need this deck in my life. Love it."
Oh, thank you.
And the link is in the description. Hopefully, it works well because I had to jump back and forth and retype stuff. It just seemed like MPC makes it easy for to go straight to somebody's deck. At least it might have been just because of my iPad and my phone not quite meshing together with, but it should be in there. And if you go to Kristen's channel, she has the link in there as well, or what to type into your browser to take you straight to her cards and the book. There's also a book that goes with it. I didn't get that, but
yeah, it's on Google Docs, and it's on my website. There's a link to it there. So it's not in I didn't know where to put the link on Make Playing Cards. There wasn't really an option for that. So yeah.
And Empress says, runes have always interested me. I have thought about getting some and will in the future. The deck is beautiful, Kristen.
Oh,
I
thank
will be
you.
buying your deck.
Oh,
And
thank
again,
you.
the whole, purchase responsibly, but
Yes.
as long as you can, it's a beautiful addition to your deck. I mean, like I said, it's good for ancestral work, trauma, and I don't mean like to scare people by like it's for trauma, but it's all encompassing. It's especially working on deep spiritual, I don't say matters, but
yeah, like the shamans
connections.
have.
The shamans, yes.
Yeah. So
Rolling says beautiful deck. Lynn says love the rich colors and creative images. She's saying yes, need it that, and she says that card is so powerful. Which one, Nancy?
No, thank you, Jonathan.
And again, aloha, Jonathan. Thank you for being here. Are the runes difficult to learn?
I would say rudimentary understanding of them, no. But they can be very complex in meaning. So if you want to go deep into the meanings and the nuances that you pull from the different poems that we get the meanings from, that could be difficult. So I mean, I'm no expert even on them. So I'm still learning myself.
We're always learning.
Yeah. I'm the perpetual page.
And a couple of years ago, I was connected to a certain metaphysical shop in Buffalo, which I'm not anymore. But one of the young ladies did a one evening workshop, and just the full 2.5 hours of just going through the basics. I mean, they are complicated, if you want to go to it, but as a addition to casting, with charms, or adding to pulling a rune to go with a tarot card or an oracle card. It's a wonderful addition. And Nancy says, I have several rune decks. Now, the only one I use is Kristen's. And she says the PDF that goes with it is fantastic.
Thank you, Nancy.
Oh, Kristen, you're so beautiful and so look so much like my deceased mom.
Oh, wow.
Oh. Let's see. Ooh, I had a nightmare about aliens when I was little and woke up remembering 3 symbols in the road. As an adult, I found out that they were runes.
Wow.
Okay, I'm feeling like. Do you remember? Oh, she may not remember what the runes were. Um, Bales, if you can remember the runes and put them into chat, maybe Kristen can take a look and see if she might get kind of like a feeling off of them. Um, I'm sorry, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, thank you, Jonathan. Oh, the breast cancer one, Nancy said. Yeah. I think that's the one that takes people's breath away the most. Really, is that one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, everybody loves your cards.
Thank you so
So, is
much.
there anything else that you would? Well, yes, we're going to go and start talking about our Nordic deities or goddesses that we
Yeah.
like to work with. So, let's learn about some. Now, is it proper to say Nordic deities, or is it Asatru, or how? What is the proper?
They all work. Norse deities, heathen deities,
Heathen?
because yeah, heathen and heathenry is specific to Norse
Okay,
paganism. And then there's Asatru, which is another name that was coined in I think the 70s by someone. But I just call myself Norse pagan. I don't use Asatru. So yeah.
she does remember them.
Oh wow.
Herthro, Kenaz, and Jera.
Yeah, so Perthrow is it's the gambling cup, and so it's about taking a chance. It's about rolling the dices and see what comes up. Knaz is about fire. It's about creativity. It's about that spark. And then Yira is about the year. So it could be about harvesting and planting, planting and harvesting in the cycles of time. And so maybe it was saying, there's something over time you're going to discover something, some spark in you, and you need to take a chance on it. That's how I would read that.
And three Vales, how long ago was the stream? I'm curious. Because if it wasn't that long ago, this may have been you coming to the chat or coming to the channel, and then Kristen being here. We could maybe, that might have been your way of saying this is a connection to maybe. Now, when we say alien, sometimes we all think, the small grays with the big eyes. I don't know if that's the type of extraterrestrial alien that you saw, but perhaps it might have been. It's interesting that an extraterrestrial would be. Well, this is going to be a good question then. It'll segue. Now the Nordic gods and goddesses, do they claim a star system where their ancestors came from? Like some
Mm-mm.
do. No, okay.
No. Mm-mm.
Not like a star seed from like. Because I know like the Cherokee, certain people in like indigenous people, and some others have seen the Pleiades as their
Mm-hmm.
star sisters and brothers from where their creator comes from. But it's so the Nordic heathenries, the gods and goddesses, they're all connected straight from the earth itself.
Yeah, they come from the earth and basically a giant. So a giant was basically taken apart and sort of created the pieces that were needed to create life. And like Odin and his brothers Vili and Ve were like one of the first, deities created. And so yeah, it's an interesting cosmology. Like it's like taking apart a being to create the earth and everything, and interesting.
It's similar because when you said giants, there are a lot of people that, and there have been evidence of giants that walked the earth, and that they were part of the seraphim. I believe it's the tales of like the Anunnaki coming and having relations with the pre-existing peoples on the earth, which end up creating people who were giants, were large people. And do you think that might have some sort of stem from it, or is this just
I
more of a metaphorical?
Well, I think no, because actually, giant is actually a mistranslation Like they are Jotuns is what it's called, and it got translated to giants, but they're actually not bigger than the gods. Like there's giants that marry gods, and and it's not like the giants are massive creatures, and then like the other deities are really small. So they're the same size. It's just a different race of people.
Okay. We've had some people joining us, and I just want to make sure Rosanna is here. Hello, Rossi.
Hi.
That's Rosanna. And Vale said, I was a preteen. It was a spaceship chasing our car. Car disappeared and left these symbols in the road. Very interesting. That's fascinating. You know who would be good to ask that to when they're well and they do another show would be Carolyn and Peter Booker, because Carolyn's very good on looking at dreams, and I do believe Diana Bowles, as well. And Ange is here. Kristen,
Hi.
here, and this is Earl that I was sharing earlier about his aunt that passed. And I had pulled your healing card. So hello, Earl. I told Kristen that you might be joining us. That sometimes you pop into chat. So let's see. Everybody's still wishing Nancy, and for people coming in, Nancy had some eye surgery today, and so she wasn't able to be with Kristen and I, but she's hanging out with us in chat. So everyone can send lots of love and healing energy to Nancy. Or I like to call her Miss Nancy. Please do so. And alrighty, I'll go back to letting you finish talking about what goddesses that you work with that you would like to share.
The primary goddesses that I work with are Freya and Air, Eir. It's pronounced Air. And I have statues that I have on my altar. So this is Freya. And she has two cats that pull her chariot. So she's a cat lady, which is what I like. Yeah.
Yes, I'd like her.
And then there's Air, and she is a goddess of healing and medicine. So if like you are going through a hard health crisis, you can pray for healing from her, but I generally pray for her to look out for the doctors and nurses, because they need to be on point, in their caregiving. So that's usually when I go to her, it's usually to ask for that in exchange for whatever sacrifices I can give.
Can I ask you a favor? Can you just hold up Air one more time? I'll put you on the big screen. To me, she was just, just absolutely fabulous. Now, what company? That is gorgeous.
That's a good question. I don't remember. Okay. They're on Etsy, though.
Okay, can you bring up? We don't want to leave Freya out, especially with the kitty lady.
Yes,
that was just really quick. So, yes, very nice. I thought it was like a kind of like, well, when I learned about Freya, thank you. When I learned about Freya, let me buzz back on here so we can see you better. So when I was here, let me do this. There we go. That kind of threw me off. It was shown that her chariot was pulled by like a herd of cats, but it's only two cats. According to proper mythology.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it looked like a sleigh. I was just like, how the dogs for the sleigh teams. They had like I think 8 or 9 cats pulling. They said that pull her chariot, but
I'm pretty sure it's 2. I'm pretty sure. Like I don't have the greatest of memories, so maybe there's multiple sources, and one says cats and the other says 2. So that's a possibility as well.
And the newest horse at our boarding facility is Freya. Just met her a few days ago. Oh, Gary, that's so beautiful. And I don't know if you saw it, but I pulled up one of Kristen's cards, and it has a woman riding a horse, and I was like, I wonder if Kari saw that. So, Carrie, excuse me. Oh, my bad with names, everybody. See, I do get nervous. So, like I said, you don't get over it. Some people hide it really well, and but okay, I will be quiet now, and I'll let you continue.
Freya is probably the goddess that I'm most drawn to, and I would say that I relate to the deities on both planes, like energetically and literally. So I sort of live in a sort of the ambiguity between those two ways of relating to deity. But like she's the one I'm called to the most. She's the goddess of love and sexuality, of war and death. She's a very powerful, formidable goddess. Like she, you know, she's intense. She's an intense goddess to work with, and yeah, I think I see her. I attribute to her like my own ability to sort of start accepting my body and sexuality. And so I think I really, you know, give her a lot of credit to me processing a lot of, you know, baggage, you know, around the body and sexuality. So,
And it's
yeah.
interesting that you mentioned that she's a goddess that's a warrior, because when you see a lot of decks, or at least the decks that I have seen in the past, Freya is shown as almost kind of like demure. It's all about her sexuality. She's soft. She's got her. It doesn't show her really having anything of, just of strength. It's almost kind of like the image of like a damsel in distress. I don't want to say she's
Mm-hmm.
in distress, but there's no, like, when you look at the image, you can't really say, oh, now she's in touch with her sensuality, her sexuality, but look how powerful,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And for me, Freya, from what I think I read, also she promotes self-love as well,
Mm-hmm.
self-acceptance of
Mm-hmm.
one's own, body. The goddess of, she's kind of like the Aphrodite, basically, of Norse mythology. Or
Mm-hmm.
should, now, do I say properly Norse mythology, or should I say Nordic heathenism, which
You
is
can say
more
either one.
respectful? Okay.
Yeah, I think you can say either one because I mean they are myths. Like there might be some Norse pagans that believe everything literally, like they're
Mm.
basically fundamentalists. They sort of took their fundamentalist Christian framework, left it, but kept the framework, and they still relate to deity in similar ways that they did when they were Christian, and they can be very dogmatic, you know, about it.
I was going
And
to say the word dogmatic. Yeah.
yeah, and very literal. They can take it very literally. Like there's a story where Loki, in order to make, I think it's Freya, to make Freya laugh, he ties his testicles to a goat, and just as a joke, you know, just to make her laugh. And some people might say, "Oh, well, that's literal," and I'm like, "No, it's not." You know? So
Hmm.
yeah, I see them as myths. They speak of higher qualities, I guess. Yeah.
So now, when you work with your deities, like with Freya, now do you work with her? Now, do you see Freya? Because everybody's different, and that's what I love about the umbrella of paganism, is that, especially when you're solitary and there's no dogmatic, there's no tradition where everything, you have to believe this. There's no other room of thought. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it has to be what we say it is. Again, which you're still doing, like you said, the framework from the Christian or the patriarchal framework of, everything is as and there cannot be. So with Freya, do you um, feel her as, or see her as, an actual conscientious deity, or is she more of an energetic um, archetype that you connect with on an energetic level?
Yeah, I see both.
You see both?
Yeah, like I said earlier, like if I am in sacred space,
Mm-hmm.
she's real. She's real to me. You know, when I'm outside sacred space, I can relate to her in different ways. I could see her as energy, and I say I work with Freya energy, and the Freya archetype. And but when I'm in sacred space and doing what's called a bloat is it's Old Norse for blood, and it's the sacrifice. We don't, most Norse pagans today don't use animal sacrifices unless they actually were raised on a farm, you know, because it's supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
done ethically. So you sacrifice other things instead of blood, but it's still called a bloat. So during a bloat, I experience the deities as pretty palpable, you know, presences. So
So do
yeah.
you like to, and again, like I told Kristen backstage, if I ask something that's too personal or into personal spiritually, she will let me know. But when you are in circle and when you commune with her, is there like is it like a voice? Do you see her? Like, I don't know what your abilities are too. I don't know if you're a medium and you can actually physically see her in spirit form. If you see her in through your third eye, what kind of clairs possibly? Maybe I'm asking on how you experience her when you're in circle.
I have to say that I don't really think I have any clairs. I was psychic once for 6 days. Uh, yeah, for 6 days, I would draw a tarot card or a rune, and I knew, I guessed it, what it was I was gonna pull.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I'd say that for me, it's just an emotional connection. I don't see anything. I don't have any auditory sound coming to me. So for me,
You
it's
feel her energetically.
yeah, it's very ephemeral, really. It's very like I know, like for some people have like really strong convictions and beliefs, and like, oh yeah, the deity's real. I have spoken to them; they have spoken to me. I have not. I'm not one of those people. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
more like I consider myself an agnostic Norse pagan, as in I can't prove, to myself or anyone else that they are literally real.
But you feel it
Yeah,
in your
yeah, I
soul.
feel it, especially in sacred space. Like when I meet with my kindred and we're in circle together and have a float together. Yeah, I can feel the presence there. Yeah.
So when you practice, are you part of a I don't know if they in Norse tradition if it's called a coven.
It's called a kindred.
It's called so it's a kindred. That's why
Yes.
I was so a kindred is a group of Nordic
Yeah.
heathens that come together to celebrate and honor and do ritual for the gods. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like there could be other names. They could be like loosely affiliated Norse pagans that just come together for a ritual and just go about their way other times. And so I wouldn't call them a kindred. They could be a fellowship. It could not have a name at all. But a kindred is a very you have to have a lot of dedication to it. And it's like a kindred is family. It means kin. So you need to relate to each other and respect each other and think about each other in an almost kin way. So
No, I know you shared this in the past briefly, but just with us today, were you raised with this spirituality?
no,
I believe you
no.
weren't. Okay.
Yeah, I was raised Roman Catholic. And I went through a long atheist period when I was younger, and I left Catholicism. I attempted to go back to Christianity. I actually have my master's in Christian theology, so I went to seminary.
Did
Uh,
you really?
yeah, yeah, and I took classes at a Lutheran seminary and an Episcopalian and also a Catholic one. So I was actually the only female in that Catholic building, student, so it was
That's
very
amazing. They
interesting.
let you do that.
Yeah, yeah, it was very cool, and they were all great. They treated me very well there. Most of them did.
I mean, at least these days, and I can know that Fatima and Odelia, they are very progressive in their Catholic beliefs. They even mention multiple times they've left churches that were
Hmm.
not inclusive and accepting of other people's spirituality or their choice of, their partners or their husbands and wives. So they would automatically say, nope, this isn't the right. So it seems like people like Odelia and Fatima and others are starting to try to bring a more of an acceptance into
Hmm.
more of the patriarchal based religions. And so, what made you want? What was the I don't say the drive or the passion, but what was the impetus of you doing that with all the different just to get a feeling? Were you looking for something because
It's it's
I mean that's dedication right there to go to three different types of Christian seminaries. What were you looking to maybe understand or to learn? Because that's dedication, girl.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking to understand and to learn. Like I entered it as an agnostic. Everyone was like, "Why are you here?" And they were
Hmm.
perplexed. They were very kind to me, but they were very perplexed as to why this agnostic was there. But I attempted to sort of take an existential leap into Christianity to accept it, and a more progressive view of it, as like liberal Christianity. But that just didn't feed me well enough. There was just something missing there. And I attempted multiple pagan religions. So I sort of played hokey pokey for a while. So I would go, I was at seminary, I would go to a pagan ritual over here. Then I would try to go back to Christianity. Then I tried this other pagan religion. And for some reason, Norse paganism just stuck. I couldn't tell you why, it just did. And I stopped playing hokey pokey when I fell into Norse paganism.
So isn't that because you discovered in your ancestry that you do have Norse, Swedish connections too?
No, I don't say my ancestry. Like that was nice when I found that out. Like I was like, oh, holy crap! Like I was a Norse pagan before I found that out, and I was like, oh, yeah. So
you didn't know that maybe that was your ancestors drawing you to that, and then
possible.
Do you want to tell people who you found out it was? What, King Eric?
Yeah, King Eric the Victorious. He was the first king of Sweden. I descend from him, and he was like the last pagan ruler of Sweden as well. And I also descend from the Viking Rollo. He became the Duke of Normandy. He converted to Christianity though. So, yeah.
But isn't that interesting? One relative was the last pagan ruler, and then the other half was Christian. So that's like, and that's how your spiritual journey began with the Christian, and now going. I mean, that's, to me, that's just like, wow. It's like your two halves, like your ancestors bringing you, into now reincarnation. Just really quick, I don't know why, but my brain just went, the word reincarnation just jumped in. Do you feel like, well, I want to know is, how does reincarnate? Well, they just want me to ask you about reincarnation. I keep hearing reincarnation, and how does that play within the, if it does, in the Nordic belief?
I would say that there are different beliefs by different people at different times. So because there wasn't like an overseeing dogmatic, the mysterium, overseeing, what everyone believes. And so there wasn't like this dogma where like, okay, you need to be Orthodox, you need to believe this because the document says this. And so there are different nuances to Norse paganism, depending on where you are, what country, what area, what time. And so you do find stories about reincarnation. You find stories of them just going to hell, or one of the other, or Valhalla is like soldier.
Oh, Valhalla, yeah.
Yeah, or Folkvanger, which is Freya's field, and that is where she takes half the slain. So Odin takes half to Valhalla, and Freya, one of her titles is Valfreya, and she is the Lady of the Slain, and so she gets the other half. And we don't know what they do there. My guess is that while Odin takes the ones who are going to fight during Ragnarok, and so they're fighting every night. They fight all day and then they feast all night. But like I'm thinking, maybe the men there are just sort of enjoying themselves, the pleasures that she can offer. So that's my, what you
the
call
earthly delights. So
yes, earthly delights. And like that's my UPG. A UPG is unverified personal gnosis. It's a common term in Norse paganism, and it's a belief that you have that isn't supported by any text. So
oh my goodness, you're just a wealth of, I mean, my goodness. It would take two shows. Because now, for most of us, our idea of what Valhalla, Ragnarok is all based on the Marvel movies.
Oh gosh, yes.
So I love them, I enjoy them, but I know that it's just like, okay, now this is Hollywood's version. So it's nice to have somebody who does actual practice to really kind of explain. So is like Ragnarok, you said they fight all night and then, or no, they fight during the day and then they feast all night. Does that coincide with like, the nighttime, like the battle of the sun to make it across the sky. Is that like the battle, or what is there like a analogy or a metaphor, or is
Well,
it an actual constant spiritual battle that's
yeah,
played out every night?
it's they're basically in training when they're in Valhalla for Ragnarok. And so when Ragnarok happens, there's a long winter. And after that, I mean, there's so many things that go on in
Mm-hmm.
Ragnarok. I don't have to go into all the details,
Yeah.
but basically, it's the death of the gods. And some people think that that's actually Christian influence, that story. I don't think so. It's basically a death and rebirth, and it's sort of that cycle of life that goes. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a myth. Like, to me, it's a myth. It's not like the gods literally died, you know. So it's something that you learn. You know, you get wisdom from. So
Wow. Because I know there's a game that Shannon and I like to play. Well, he plays it mostly, but it's called Skyrim. And it's, the Norse people trying to take their land back from the Empire. And they speak of, going to, after, during a battle, there's, Valhalla that awaits. So it's a really cool game. The artwork, everything is beautiful. It's very respectful, at least that I can understand. And so that's one of, you know, the things that I, loved about the game and with spirituality is how certain games are starting to bring in the mythologies, but then you kind of have to watch that. Of course, it doesn't get westernized. It doesn't
mhm.
get, like you said, filter through the concept of patriarchal established religions. But it's a really beautiful game. I mean, yeah, I won't. That's a whole other. But I'm seeing more influence of the Norse, and
Mhm.
it's just in and to the point where it's almost like a lot of things we were talking about the other night, the commercialism that's kind of coming into all areas of um, our spirituality.
Mhm.
You're seeing it. It's nice to see, Thor's hammer and these other sigils, not runes, on necklaces, being more in the forefront. People more in the movies, more people talking about it like others. But at the same time, you go to the store and there's like 10 books by 10 different authors on the same, and it's almost kind of like a just let's see how much we can get out there to make money off of it. And because of all the books that are out there, is there a particular author that you can recommend for somebody who's interested? Because like I said, you go to the store and like with someone wants to learn witchcraft or Wicca 101
Mhm.
books. There's like a whole freaking shelf of just the same thing by different
Yeah.
authors. Is there an author that you feel embodies really what is that the understanding, the tradition, the mythology, if that somebody's interested in wanting to learn,
I would
like a
say
like a beginners.
a good introductory book is it's called, I think it's called Asatru, like Introduction to Asatru or something like that. And her name is, and it's, I'll butcher her last name. It's Patricia LaFell, but it doesn't look like LaFell. It looks like something else. I would have to look that up for you. But
Okay.
we're friends on Facebook, and I would
Oh,
recommend.
wonderful.
Yeah, so like it's her introductory text that I recommend to people.
Now, that would be it. Do you think she may want to join us, Nancy and I and you, someday to maybe talk a little bit more in the future? Or is that something that you don't think she would be interested in sharing her book
I'm
and
not
her?
really sure. I mean, we're Facebook friends, you
Yeah.
know. I'm not close to her, you
Hmm.
know, so I don't know if I would be comfortable doing that. But
Okay,
asking, yeah,
that's fine then. That's honest, and I can totally get
yeah.
behind that. I have been starring some comments along the way. Let's see, Empress. I recently bought a beautiful crystal, and when I first looked at it, I saw a hawk and a wolf in it facing each other. The air statue with the cats just reminded me of it. The goddess of air, her name is Air.
Yeah, it's EIR is air. Yeah.
And I'm so glad you ladies chose this topic. Oh, me too. Odelia, like I said, has joined us, and it says here, Kristen, it sounds like you do have one of the Claire sentience. is the ability to feel the energy around you and in the environment. So we
That's
all have some
possible.
sort of clair.
Mhm.
Some of us are born with some that are a little bit stronger than others, but because you feel that sense, you can feel the presence. So thank you, Amanda. Thank you for
Yeah, thank
sharing your
you.
insight. And like Fatima said, I asked Spirit, which church should I go to? At night, I heard a voice go, I heard a voice go to St. Anthony's Church. Been there ever since. Feel very comfortable. They're more accepting
Good.
and welcoming of people. And Beth, Spacia Rising is here. Hello, my dear. And let's see, Teresa, have heard people say family religion didn't feel right and later learned previous generations had to convert out of fear of persecution. So I
Hmm.
totally, yeah. And I think that's why a lot of times I can't find things on my great grandmother's, in the past for my Celtic because there's just no records and things. I'm like, but I want to know what they're, and they don't say. And so I have a feeling as that inner knowing that if this is what I'm interested in now, I must be following in somebody's footsteps from my ancestors. And
Hmm.
so, and that's amazing that you were able to figure that out in this lifetime and put the two together and help you. It's like your ancestors helped you find your spiritual path,
Yeah, I
and
think
it's always
so.
evolving. It really
Hmm.
is. Are you currently now, when you do your spiritual work, do you bring other aspects like of Catholicism into your ritual practice with the Nordic, or do you keep those two separately if you do that? Because I know I still retain some of my Catholic, but I don't want the dogma. I don't want the, most of the baggage
Yeah.
that
No.
goes with that.
No, I've sort of left all stripes of
Uh-huh.
Christianity aside. So they're completely separate. Catholicism is in my past. I still have a respect for it and a fascination for different, denominations of Christianity. And I can respect progressive Christians.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's in the past. It
It's no
doesn't.
longer part of your.
Yeah, it's no part. Yeah.
I don't practice, but my mother Mary, and people again like Freya, if I can just divulge a little bit here. Um, she's shown traditionally as the meek, the mercy, and people, and I'm like, wait a minute. And I always knew that that wasn't right, especially as I got older. I'm like, look at the times when she was pregnant. There was all that going on with the Roman Empire, people going and hunting down. There was all that, political strife and conflict. She was pregnant. I mean, you don't have a meek hiding though. She was strong. She was
Hmm.
bad. I mean, any mother who's there willing to protect their child will take up the mantle of warrior if they have to.
Hmm.
And so that's one of the things that I kind of still cringe a little bit at when I do see, some the perpetuating of the image of her being all head down and this. It's just like, damn it, somebody find me a picture where there's like a sword in her hand or something that shows her, in that warrior position, that
Hmm.
defensive, empowering, And so for me, even though my statues don't necessarily reflect that, I just know within myself and looking at other books and reading other authors who are picking up on similar things that a lot of these, goddesses, because of the patriarchy, they were rewritten by monks that were Christian and other male religions. And so you get a very much male oriented view, like you said, through the framework of, the patriarchal, religions. And so they tend to lose, the women, guys, some of them still, the naked here for the man, I'm this, I need to be rescued. And then you got the male gods who are, it's nice to see that a lot of women are now discovering, the warrior within, in the goddesses, and more to them, that there's so many more deep layers.
Hmm.
Now, when you start exploring like Freya and working with air, did you find layers to them that you didn't know were there?
Um, yeah, definitely. Like when I first heard about Freya, I heard the more feminine version of her, the goddess of love, and I didn't know about the being like a Valkyrie, claiming the slain and like just her spunk. I didn't know about that, and so she just knows how to carry herself, and you see her as an inspiration because for years, I've had like this baggage from childhood, from being bullied so much that like I sort of have shrunk myself. I spent a lot of time shrinking myself, and like I think Freya inspires me to take up space. And that's one of the things that I discovered through working with her, is that she gave me some inspiration to take up space. Yeah.
That's why I love I'm learning more, and that's why I like to share, like with Mary. I don't really resonate with anybody else, except of course Saint Francis, who loves the animals. I'm an animal person, so if I need assistance with animals or something, I always go to him, or like Saint Anthony if I lost something. But for me, with Mary, as I got into college, and I actually took a women in religion class. People know this. I've shared multiple times, and it was taught by a Franciscan nun,
Mm-hmm.
and she taught us about Wicca, witchcraft, the goddess movement, and that pissed off a lot of kids
Wow.
in her class, because she was showing the negativity of the patriarchal religions and what it did to women, how it subjugated women, how women were blamed for the evil, for everything, and how we used to be considered equals, and our bodies and our periods and our being able to give birth were honored and respected, and even sometimes feared. But the respect there, and that angered a lot. And me and this other girl I used to be friends with, Dina, we were just up front going, ooh, 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 raising our hands, and just like, people want to leave, go, let them leave. But she was in her 70s when she taught the class, and she was she had a doctorate. She wrote the book herself for her class. And I
Wow.
asked her, I said, aren't you supposed to be converting Catholic? And she says, no. She goes, my part here is to, educate and help someone find their spiritual path. And if it's not Catholicism, if it happens to be goddess worship, like, because I told her about my journey and
Mm-hmm.
my path at that time, she's like, that I helped you find the right path. So, you know, I hope we get more and more, you know, like her. I mean, this is going to the early and mid '90s, so but yeah, there are some, women out there that are, picking up you know, the torch, and the sword, and and helping to improve. And the other half of her book too, I want to state, is that it wasn't just like all, the male bashing of, the patriarchal. On the other half of the book, she was given examples of women in each of the in Judaism, in Catholicism, in Islam, that were working towards trying to improve the image of women, the status, trying to show people what they found beautiful in the faith that they were raised with, and trying to help improve the relations and the I don't want to say the amount of respect, the status of women in these religions. And hello, Tom. Hello, lurking a bit. Yep, this is something, because Tom is in his process of his spiritual evolution, and right now he's, I think, Tom, you said you are a Gnostic atheist, so he's not really quite sure if there is a god, if there is a goddess, or anything. And we talked about this on my channel. We all have different spiritual paths at different times. It's all
Mm-hmm.
why we're here, you know, to
Mm-hmm.
evolve and to learn. So, Beth, women are definitely feared, or there would be no need to suppress us. Strong. Oh, she was. She really was. Great memories of her. I mean, my 20s in college were amazing because of women like her and other people. It's not the same anymore, unfortunately. So you'll have to watch this. Okay, Jonathan, thank you. Now, isn't she associated with deer? Amanda, I'm not sure who you are referring to. Um, Now, Freya is associated mainly only with cats, right? There's no
Yeah.
like other. So is there a particular animal that air is
Not
associated with?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I know now the deer is associated with Ellen of the Trod, who Diana Bowles has shared with us. And she's going to be coming back too. Mary's a strong woman with a loving heart. Yep. But she took no shit. I can tell you that right now. She had to be strong. Those women had to, in those times. Mary is our spiritual mother. She loves all of us. Yep. So atheistic, agnostic at best. Okay. Let's see. I have the Book of Marian Apparitions. It's very good. And Nancy. So Nancy's still with us, my dear. Since I've been studying the divine feminine, I have come to realize the tremendous power these goddesses embody. They are not faint-hearted. Nope. They stand resplendent among the gods. They show no weakness. I love her language. They stand resplendent among the gods. That's beautiful.
Yeah. That's-
Yep, that's right, Diana and the dear Artemis. So I just want to ask you something because a lot of the different pantheons, the Greek, Roman, Celtic, um, not so much with the Native American, but other cultures, a lot of these mythologies all have, you know, the same gods with different names. So when you work, so I don't know if this is a question, Kristen, but for me, it's like now Freya would be like the Egyptian Bast or Sekhmet because of the catch. They didn't pull any chariots, but they were associated. Um, do you feel from the studies that you have learned that all the different pantheons, let's say, of the gods and goddesses, do you think they all are? Because I know you said you have a personal relationship that you feel her personality when you work with her. I'm just curious as to what you think. Do you think it could be all these gods and goddesses are the same god and the same goddess energy, and they come to us in personalities through different cultures or um, environments, actually? Or do you think every single one are independent of their own and they're just similar because we are of the human race, if that makes sense to
Yeah,
you?
yeah, I believe the latter. I don't believe there's one goddess energy and one god energy. I think that's a Wiccan concept. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm no Wiccan, so don't quote me on that. But it's my understanding that they have a goddess and a god, and
Mm-hmm.
there's different faces to those.
They can be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and so I see them as separate beings because they might overlap in focus, but it's not one to one. It's not like you could say, oh, Thor is Zeus or Odin or something, like they're,
Yeah, or yeah.
yeah, like they might
Okay.
overlap in qualities, but they're not the same. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. A lot of
Oh.
people will have different experiences and different
Yeah.
things. So thank you for sharing that with us. And hello, Leah. Good to see you. Um, Tom, Diana is associated with deer. Not sure if that was who was being discussed. No. I think there might have been a conversation in chat that I missed with the deer. But like with Diana and Artemis, one is Greek, one is Roman. So they're saying, some people say Diana and Artemis are basically the same goddess, just in a different name because of a different culture, a
Yeah,
different
I'd say
ethnicity. So
with
that
Rome
was,
and Greek, I think that's true because the Romans just basically like, oh, look what the Greeks did. Let's take them. It's really obvious that they were taking from Greek, culture and mythology. So I think in that instance, they're different names for the same deity, in my opinion.
okay.
So
And our paths are all different.
yeah,
And so what might resonate spiritually for Kristen may not be the same for somebody else. And that's why I prefer the pagan path, the solitary, is because there's so much rich heritage, or not, or I don't say knowledge, but there's so much. And some people think mythology is a detrimental word towards a spiritual, because they're like, well, you say mythology, that means you're saying that
it's
this
not
is all a myth
real.
and this is not
Yeah,
real. But there are these different mythologies because they have been, I mean, we really don't know, not until we get to the other side.
yeah,
But for me, mythology doesn't have a direct detrimental. It's just kind of like an archetypal blueprint of energies. And if you choose to
Mm-hmm.
connect with one, you will find out personally, spiritually for yourself, whether that's just an energy or if you will feel like you do in circle, you will feel the presence and the personality of Freya, of that particular deity.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think it's just our path that we choose when we come here, what we want to experience, how we want to work with the universe, the great spirit. I love how a lot of indigenous cultures will refer to God, goddess, not just as the one, but the great spirit, because it's one great spirit that we come from, the universal spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And all those spirits have all these different facets and multi layered. And it's just, sometimes it can be very confusing, it can be frustrating, a little scary, because then you're thinking, well, what if I'm not worshiping or I'm not working with, um, the right people? Like people say, are you going to go to hell? And yes, hell, Hel. Now, is she part of the Norse
Mm-hmm.
as well? And that's where the Christians took their hell from, is the
Yeah.
goddess Hel. Did you want
Yeah.
to just share a little bit about her?
She is Loki's daughter, and she was given dominion over the underworld, Hel, Hel, and she's named Hel, Hel. And there's different aspects to Hel. There is what you come to know the Christian hell to be, it's like a bad place. Like it's where you go to be punished. But that's not it. That's not the only part of hell. It's just where people often go when they die. Even gods, like Balder, Odin's son, when he was killed, he went to hell. And which is interesting. Like you think a dead deity would go like to a hall somewhere, but no, he went to hell. And a lot of people work with hell or Hela, however you want to say her name. And she's a very dark mother is energy. So she has like a motherly energy. I've been told. I don't work with her though, so at
And
least
when you
not
say
yet.
Now, when you say dark, you don't mean like negative, evil dark. It's
No,
just she
sort of.
works with trauma
Yeah,
or
I would like that's a good
authority.
question. I'm not an expert on health, so I don't want to misspeak. So it's probably best that I just leave it at that. So I think she is a complex energy. She's someone that you can work with, shadow work with. She helps
Mm-hmm.
you process those things. So yeah, that's how
Amazing,
I believe
beautiful.
that. Yeah.
Most very similar to like the Celtic. Well, the Morrigan was more like death in battle, like a Valkyrie.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas I think like Moxa, she might have been considered more of the Dark Mother. And when people say darkest, that part of life that we don't, part of the life cycle, a lot of us don't want to face.
Hmm.
That for every life, there is going to be death, and sometimes the death is violent, sometimes the death is peaceful,
Hmm.
and it's working with these particular energies, archetypes, deities, that help, or at least helped our early people, our ancestors, be able to accept and process. And then, of course, as we got into the enlightened age, um, you know, people started fearing death, and it's even gotten now to the point where it's like, unlike the 18th century stuff, where people would hold wakes in their own home and not be afraid of the whole process and having the family members there. It's to the point now where it's in another building, it's keeping away. So it's kind of like we're trying to really disassociate with ourselves from the inevitable. And with these, in the past with our ancestors, they had access to this knowledge and to these energies or goddesses and gods that helped us understand and probably appreciate life more. And it's interesting too that the Christians added an extra L. Hell, because
Yeah.
her name is spelled with one L. And
Yeah.
I first time I learned about her was through a Susan Siddon Boulay painting, that she did. And they were doing like a collection of her works, and they called the Goddess paintings. And one of them they chose to associate. And I said, hell, wait a minute, and that was my first learning of her, was through that beautiful. And I have actually her as a bookmark, and I have no idea where it is now, but I'll have to share it with you at some point. But
That'd be great.
okay, we are at 6:15. Um, typically we do a few readings, but I don't want to rush a reading if there's still more information that you would like to share that we can learn about any of the goddesses that you work with, or anything that you would like to share that you would like for us to take from today um, about these goddesses.
No, I can't think of anything.
Well, there's one thing I will share is there is a winery not far from me that sells mead, and they have one called Freya's Passion. And oh my God, this mead is absolutely delicious. If anyone can maybe have special order it, it's pear with a hint of strawberry.
Wow.
No, vanilla with a hint of strawberry.
Wow.
Freya's Passion. Oh my God! So thank you, Freya, for the inspiration for that mead. And for people who don't know what mead is, it's a wine made out of honey. And one of these days, I have got to find it's a highly secret recipe from the Scots that make a mead out of the heather
Oh,
that grows
okay.
in the Highlands. And one of these days, I have got to try that. So yum, yes. So we're at 6:15. So how are you on time? Did you want to do a few mini readings, or do you want to do a collective? I don't know what your time available.
I have about like 15 minutes that I could say. So
So do you want to do like a divine feminine collective
sure.
for everybody in chat? And thank you everybody for coming. We're definitely going to have Miss Kristen back. This is just amazing. Thank you for sharing, because I know I'm going to start looking a little bit into more, because like I said, 5 years ago, Ancestry.com, I had a test done and I had no idea. Finnish, Scandinavian, Norwegian. I'm like, what the? Nobody in the family knew. So it's starting to make sense now a little bit more why I've always had an interest in some of the Asatru or the heathenry. And when you take the word heathen, take off the N, put the R on there, and you got my name.
Yeah, there you go.
That's pretty badass. So, alrighty. Just what decks to use? I'm going to use the Kristen's deck.
Okay.
And I might throw a couple of my witchy Lenormands in there. We'll see. Again, thank you everybody. Again, the link for Kristen's cards are in the description, and be sure to she's doing more now with her channel, and yeah, hit that like button, subscribe, and you'll know when because I know you've been doing a few deck reviews as well, right?
I've been meaning to. I haven't done a video in probably a month or so.
Oh, really? I thought you did it a couple weeks ago. Yeah, the time's just flying.
Yes.
Already, mid-June. Yeah, next week is solstice already. My goodness.
Yes.
Oh, perfect cards for solstice. Let's see. Carmela Flowing says, loved learning about the Norse. Thank you, Kristen.
Oh, good.
Let's see. Whoop. Okay, that just came flying out. Is that right if I go ahead, or are you still pulling?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I don't need to enlarge myself. There's enough room here. So from Kristen's deck, insight, divine feminine messages. We did learn a lot of insight. So for me, her eyes looking at the earth and going, there is so much, there's so many different cultures and people, ancient knowledge, new ways of learning from each other, having that insight, knowing that there's more to us than just, again, to this little blue planet. Sorry about that. So having insight into yourself, into the world, and in time for solstice, vitality. There's the sun. So again, this is feeling like Freya's coming through in her meadow. So
Mm-hmm.
perhaps this could be Freya stopping in. I know Freya typically has the blonde hair, but this could be Freya reminding us go out into nature, stand in the meadows, absorb that sun, feel the warmth, get in touch again with Mother Nature. And for solstice too, I feel like this is all coming together. I got the ants. This is like I think one of my favorite cards out of the deck is the ancestors card,
Those are
and
my
this
ancestors.
these are your ancestors.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I don't remember you. Oh my goodness! So we have Kristen's ancestors coming
Yeah.
and telling us to being in touch again with our ancestors, learning. Maybe if you can do it, have those ancestry tests done. Discover where your roots are. Explore, reconnect with them. The solstice. Um, there's something else, but it's not coming. Okay, maybe it will later on. I also got Isa. I got that sacred pause. So taking that moment, and I love how you put that like right near her third eye. And so acknowledging your ancestors, speaking with them through your intuition, in your mind, connecting to spiritually what brings you vitality, what brings you joy this week. Now that you have more insight into the 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 power, the connection, that kindred and kin spirit that Kristen was talking about with relatives, connecting with your ancestors. And I just pulled a few cards from my witchy Lenormand, and I have that child. Let that inner child play, that inquisitiveness. Let her explore. Let her get your hands dirty. Let her get her hands dirty. Let her explore um, books. Read the books. I love this. It feels like a Maleficent. I love Maleficent the movies. So again, the book, the knowledge, messages coming, getting anchored and centered into who you are in your learning, whatever it is that you are exploring, especially spiritually. And again, for me, this is just creating that beautiful garden for yourself. Um, Everything blooming, surrounding yourself with beauty, just like in Freya's meadow, you know. So those are my cards. And what do you have, my dear?
So I pulled three cards from the Wild Goddess Oracle, and I got the Lover as the first card. And it says, with love, all things are possible, for love replaces your confusing doubts and weakening fears with faith in yourself and others. So I think this is just a strong message that I think Freya is coming through right there. Like she
Mm-hmm.
gives that confidence, at least she has with me. And so that's reflective there. And then I also got the Shadow. So making a friend and ally of your shadow side is necessary for becoming your authentic self, a key element of true success. So maybe Hal's coming through there. And we got the Seeker. The meaning of life is to seek ways to give your life meaning, doing so with gratitude, patience, and compassion for both others and yourself.
I love that artwork card. I love the collage.
Yeah, yeah, I like them.
What deck is that again?
It's the Wild Goddess Oracle. It's the same artist that did what's it called? The Farber, Zerner Farber Tarot.
Not familiar with them, but
Okay.
I love the collage work. It's similar to an Etsy deck that I've seen. I'll have to send you a link to that one because it's very similar. A lot of those
Mm.
images laid over one another. So everybody, thank you for joining us today. Kristen, thank you for taking time. It's always a pleasure, my dear. Like I said, the door is always open whenever you want to join Nancy and I again. I appreciate you taking your time,
Well,
to be
thank you for
here.
having
And
me.
thank you for bringing Freya and Air to us today, honoring the goddess Freya and Air. Thank you for your presence,
Yes.
our respect. And Nancy, feel better soon, my dear. Um,
Yes.
and I appreciate everyone's path. Yes, a lot of us need to remember that more these days, as always. And you don't have anything coming up, Kristen, that you want to share, or
I'm
On your
hoping
channel?
once the temperature goes down, I'll do a ramble in the woods. I'd like to talk about doing tarot while struggling with a chronic condition because I have chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. So I'd like to. I might do a video on that.
I
In
can
a
relate to
couple
some of
weeks.
that. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and with the heat and everybody too, and on the East Coast, that all of us that are getting hit with that heat wave this week.
Yes.
Stay cool as much as possible. Don't overexert. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate.
Mm-hmm.
These runes are carved on the bottom. Oh, she has a Freya statue. She has Rahi, Ewas, Yera, and Anzus. Beautiful. Did I say Rahi
I think it's supposed to be Rhino.
or Rido? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, Rido. There we go. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Nancy, for sharing. Alrighty, everybody, have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you the next time. Thank you again, Kristen.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.